to the Isaiah Thomas thing. Because Chris and I got into this discussion earlier. So George Hill's a smart veteran. He goes to the Cavs and he's like, hey, man, I'm Robin, he's Batman. Isaiah Thomas went to the Cavaliers and was like, I scored 28 a game last year. Is it possible, and this is what Carissa and I were kind of suggesting earlier, that it was more mental for Isaiah that he came into this team and wasn't willing to be a Robin? He thought and saw himself, Chris, is a little bit of like Batman 1A.
Oh, there's no question. And, coming off a 29-point season, 5th in the MVP voting, second team All-NBA, you can understand it. Some of it was his game. At a certain point, your game is your game.
You always say that.
He's a ball-dominant player.
Yeah.
He's a slasher. So that's just the way he plays. It's tough to adjust. But, yeah, what he was last season, that was an aberration. He's got to forget about his old girlfriend. All right. It's like he was dating Halle Berry.
Right.
Okay. And you never were in Halle Berry's league.
Okay.
So now you got to recognize I'm not getting another Halle Berry.
Right.
Okay. He's not going to be a 29-point scorer anywhere, especially on a good playoff team again.
Boston, by the way, Boston was going through the rebuild. Kyrie wasn't there yet. Gordon Hayward. So Boston looked at him and thought, he's actually a nice, dynamic offensive player. They kind of built around him. Yep. But Cleveland didn't need to build around him.
Well, and Boston even knew, as great as Isaiah was last year, they knew, you're only going so far with this. We're a conference finalist that could have been eliminated in the first round if Rajon Rondo hadn't gotten hurt. So they understood what they were. You have to give Brad Stevens credit for building around Isaiah, creating a system where he could flourish and the team could pretty much maximize what it was.
By the way, if Isaiah Thomas would have stayed in Boston this year, even they would have significantly reduced his role. He wouldn't have averaged 29 with Kyrie Irving and a healthy Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, if they had Kyrie becomes the best player.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Isaiah needs to, again, forget about what he did last year. And look, he got mad at me 2 weeks ago when I said he's really more in the Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams class.
Did he text you?
Well, he responded to our Fox Instagram
where
they put the quote up. He was just like, oh, that's what you think, Chris? Okay, after like 8 games or something. Right. He didn't go at me, but he just showed his disapproval. But first of all, Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams are very good players, and they can contribute to good teams. People need to begin to look at Isaiah in that vein. It's not because they don't think they're as good as some of the stars. Jamal Crawford is as confident as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
But you don't hear him running his mouth about, LeBron's 1, I'm 1A. Why is Chris Paul starting in front of me? I'm just as good. Even if he thinks that, he doesn't say it. Isaiah could go somewhere and help a good team as a 6-man off the bench. 22 minutes a night, 18 points a night. That's what he can do. But as long as he thinks, I'm like a 27-point scorer, I should be second, third team All-NBA, I don't know who's going to take him. A bad team with young players might feel you might stunt these young guys' growth. A good team that's trying to win a championship might feel like you won't accept your role. So he's going to have to recalibrate. That's a word that's been in the press with the Lakers, right, recently. Recalibrate.
Okay, stay there. You and I disagree strongly on something. All right, Chris Broussard, I was saying this earlier. I wasn't on the air Thursday. I was a labor-intensive vacation. And so when they made this big deal, my takeaway was Cleveland separated from Boston. There are 7 guys on Cleveland now that I believe in any given night could score 20. George Hill, LeBron, Kevin Love, Jeff Green, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, Rodney Hood. Whereas Boston, if Kyrie Irving's not scoring, that is an incredibly limited offense. So my takeaway is they closed the gap with Golden State, but they separated from Boston. Now, I didn't hear what everybody else was saying. I like Brad Stevens. I think this roster, if Kyrie's not hot, I just think, Chris, it's limited.
They're a pretty good team. I think they're really only slightly better than they were last year. They're pretty good. The last 2 months, they're 18 and 14.
In the East.
In the East. Most of their games probably have been against Eastern Conference opponents. That's a 46-win pace. And I don't want to hear people say, well, look at Cleveland over the last 2 months. Number one, Cleveland's got a different team now. Number two, We've seen Cleveland do this. They have a track record.
And by the
I'm
way,
not going to freak out
beats...
about Golden State having a bad month.
By the way, LeBron has owned this version of the Celtics.
Oh,
you can't bury that.
Look, they're counting on too many young guys. Jason Tatum has understandably hit the rookie wall. First 2 months, he was one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Last month and a half, he's 33% from the arc. Jaylen Brown starting to play well again, but he hit a little bit of a wall a month ago or so. You know, I think Toronto is better than them. I really do. So, depending on how the seeding works out, it could be Cleveland, Toronto in the conference finals rather than Boston.
We both think Brad Stevens is great, right?
Yes, terrific coach.
Go look at their offensive efficiency numbers. With Brad Stevens, they're like 23rd, 25th. Yeah. I mean, if Kyrie's not stroking it, if he's not hot, if he's not in his zone, this offense hits a ceiling fast. Now, here's where you and I are going to disagree. I have long been a proponent of Rodney Hood's game in Utah, and the Jazz made a terrible mistake. Listen, he's 6'8". He's a good pick-and-roll guy. I don't sit and watch Jazz games all the time, but I know Rodney Hood. He played at Duke. He's got length. He can shoot. And now I get him with LeBron. I never felt like in Utah, a defensive-minded team, I never felt Rodney Hood was a great fit. And now when Donovan Mitchell comes in, like it doesn't work. Yep. I think so you're telling...
I tell you, look at his stroke. His stroke is beautiful.
Look,
his jump shot, oh my gosh.
A shorter Chris Bosh. It's a beautiful jumper for a guy that's 6'8".
Yeah, it's great. Look, he's a very good player. I'm not ready to put him on the all-star team like you are, but I do. You are, right?
In the East. I'm just saying.
No, I like him a lot. I actually think, with all due respect to JR, Hood should be the starting two guard.
But you don't want to mess with JR?
Yeah, you know, look, as long as JR is playing well, and it certainly lit a fire under him last night because he has somebody behind him pushing him. If JR continues to play well, I'm fine with him starting. Hood would be more consistent. Think he's JR is streaky, but Hood probably is a little more consistent.
Utah likes Joe Ingles. They've got this great rookie. Why did they abandon Rodney Hood? That's the one guy I don't get in the deal.
He's been inconsistent. You know, he wasn't necessarily happy with his role. I don't know how much he liked Donovan Mitchell coming in and kind of stealing his thunder, becoming the man. You know, so I think that has something to do with it. But look, he is going to be very good in Cleveland. You saw the Boston highlights. Most of his shots were wide open. He went to the hole and made some contested layups. But as far as his jumpers, they were wide open. Here's the last thing about him. He is going to, along with the other three guys they got in the trade, but Rodney Hood has been playing very good offensive basketball for the last 3 years in relative anonymity.
Oh, no question.
Nobody knew about him other than the hardcore basketball fans. Now, how do you think he feels about, I get to showcase what I can do on the big stage? Oh, and plus, it's easier to score here because LeBron draws so much attention than it was in Utah.
Okay, it's also the East.
It's the East, too. Like, look, Kyrie was already getting a lot of love, was an all-star before LeBron went there. However, playing with LeBron allowed him to do it in the playoffs.
By the way,
and in the finals, and that took him to another level.
Rodney, here, Al Horford's like 32. We know what he is. Okay, I think Rodney Hood playing with LeBron, Rodney's like 25.
He's young. I think it's his third or fourth year.
Like, yeah. I like him.
I like him a lot. He could end up being.
You know whose game reminds me of, too? A little Jalen Rose. He's got a little bit of that kind of, he's got his body language. He's a lanky two-guard. He's like 6'8".
Yeah.
And Jalen had that kind of funky style. He was a little upright, real long. So,
no, I like Hood.
Props to you, Jalen, if you're watching there.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.